In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to produce stunning black and white architectural photography, just like the photos that you can see on screen right now. And we're going to be doing this all in Lightroom in 5 easy to follow steps. So let's jump in and get started. So here we are in Lightroom. If you'd like to see the video of how I captured these photos, these images are of St. Paul's in London. Click on this video right here. There are a few elements to consider, so have a little look. Also, I will provide a link below this video where you can download this exact photo. And I'll tell you what, I'll even chuck in 2 of my black and white Lightroom presets just to help you get started. Okay, so on to step 1. Step 1, we need to select the sky, and Lightroom is fantastic at doing this. So what we want to do is click on this icon over here. This is our masking tool, and then we want to click this button here. Lightroom is going to do the rest for us and select the sky. Just give it a couple seconds and there you go. Lightroom has done a fantastic job of selecting the sky and leaving our subject, in this case St. Paul's, totally alone. If you cannot see this red mask, you just want to click on this little icon here, this little tick, and this basically shows us the red mask that we've just created. This is the mask of the sky. So all we're going to do now is come down to the exposure slider and just drag it all the way to the left. Now you can go super dark with this. I like to leave a little bit of cloud showing. So if you're following along with this photo, which I do recommend, I'm doing -3.3 and you should be able to see a little bit of sky. Okay, so that's step 1 completed already. On to step 2, we want to convert the image to black and white. And we do this by clicking on the edit button. That takes us back to our global settings. So before we were in the mask settings for the sky, this has taken us back to the global settings for the whole photo. And then we just want to click on this black and white button, and Lightroom is going to convert the whole image into black and white. Then all we want to do is scroll down to the black and white panel, which is here. Now these sliders control how light or dark a color is when it has been converted to black and white. So I would recommend that you just have a play with these and push them to the left and push them to the right. So you can see here the magenta isn't doing much, the purple isn't doing too much. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to create a good balance between light and dark. So onto the blue slider. Now I know there's a lot of blue in this image because the sky is obviously blue, so you can see it's having a big effect onto the sky and a little bit onto St. Paul's as well. So I'm going to pull this right down, let's say -88, then onto aqua. Aqua doesn't have too much of an effect, so I'm just going to put that back into the middle. A quick little tip, any slider in Lightroom, if you just double click onto the slider, let's say, look, I pulled it down to -87. I want it to go back to 0 because it's not doing much. I just double click it and there you go. Lightroom just pops it back to 0. Onto the green slider, there's a tree in the foreground, so you can see that's having a big effect on the tree. I'm going to go -85. I want that tree to be nice and dark. Onto the yellow slider, you can see the yellows is having a big effect. So the yellow is obviously the color of the sun bouncing off the brick. And I want to pull that down to, let's say, -90. And then onto the orange slider. The orange is creating a nice separation between the shadow and the highlight. So I'm going to pull that down to around 80, let's say -82, and then the red slider. The red slider isn't doing much at all, so I'm just going to double click that and push that back to 0. Now, if you hit Y on your keyboard, you'll see a before and after, and already we've made a huge difference to this photo in just a few minutes. So just hit Y on your keyboard again, and that's going to take us back to our photo so that we can continue editing. Step 3, we want to make a mask of the building, the subject. In this case, it's St. Paul's. So we're just going to scroll to the top, click on the masking tool button, and that's going to bring up our mask here. We're going to click on the plus, and we're just going to hit select subject and let Lightroom do its thing. And there you have it. In seconds, it's made a mask of St. Paul's. We're just going to come down to the exposure slider and we're going to pull it down to the left. We want St. Paul's to be nice and dark, and we just want to see a little bit of the highlights. So in this case, minus 3.6. Now, step 3, this is where the fun begins. Open up your masking tool again. If you need to, click on this button here if you've already got it up. Then we just want to click on the plus button and we're going to select radial gradient. Now, if you haven't used radial gradient before, you just click and hold and it's going to drag a big red patch onto the screen. If you cannot see the outlines of the radial gradient mask, just click H on your keyboard and you'll see the outlines appear. Now this little section, this inner section, this is your feather. And then here, over here, you can pull this and drag it into whatever shape you like. So we want a nice sort of big round shape. We're trying to imitate the sun hitting St. Paul's. We're just going to click and hold this button here and we can rotate it, and I'm just going to drag it over the dome of St. Paul's. So somewhere around there, maybe just a little touch smaller and a little touch more narrow. And then over here, we're just going to pull up the exposure and you'll see St. Paul's come to life. And it already looks like there's a big ray of sunshine hitting St. Paul's. So what we're trying to do, the light is coming from the top left-hand corner. That's where the sun was in this photo. And we're just trying to imitate that with these radial masks and different layers in Lightroom. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of contrast as well. So there we went plus 2.5 on the exposure, and now I'm adding a bit of contrast, plus 36 on contrast, and then I'm just going to scroll down, and under effects you'll see texture and clarity. I just like to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of clarity. It just makes it look a little bit more realistic. So plus 30 on the texture, and with the clarity I'm going to do around plus 20, let's say. Hit Y on your keyboard and you're going to see an amazing before and after. We're just going to add another radial gradient to the Tower of St. Paul's. So hit Y on your keyboard again, go back up here, click on plus, radial gradient. We're going to do the same thing, but this time it's going to be a lot smaller. So you want a sort of elliptical shape, and we just want to put it over the tower. Again, once it's in place, we're just going to go to the exposure slider and pull that up. And we'll see that St. Paul's, the Tower of St. Paul's, really come to life there. Again, I'm just going to add a little bit of contrast. So we went plus 2.2 on the exposure and plus 30 on the contrast. Again, I'm just going to scroll down to the effects and add a little bit of texture. Plus 56 on texture, plus 26 on the clarity. Now, top tip, what you might notice here is that this mask has had an effect on the sky as well. It's made that cloud really bright. Both of these have made the sky a little bit bright, and we don't want that. We want these masks that only have an effect on St. Paul's. So what we're going to do, we're going to come over here, click on our radial gradient that we've just created, right click, and then we're going to go to intersect mask with subject. And in this case, the subject is St. Paul's. So we're basically telling Lightroom to have an effect with this mask on the subject only, not to affect the sky. Let Lightroom do its thing. And you see there the sky disappeared into the background, and that mask only had an effect on St. Paul's. We're going to do the same thing with the initial radial gradient that we created. Make sure you select it by left clicking and then right click, intersect with mask, select subject. And there you go. That's a huge difference. And if you press Y on your keyboard, you'll see a before and after, and it's really looking good. And some people might even stop there, but I've got a few more tips for you. Hit Y on your keyboard again. That takes us back to our photo so we can continue editing. Now we're going to go back to our mask here. We're going to select the plus button and we're going to add a linear gradient. So like the radial gradient, we're just going to click and drag. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to darken the right side of this image and darken the left side of this image as well after. So we're just going to bring the feather of this in, and we're just going to drop the exposure down. So that's added a nice bit of darkness over here. We're just going to do the same thing for the bottom left hand corner. So add another mask, click linear gradient, left click and drag from the bottom corner. And I just want to reduce the feather, and I'm going to pull down on the exposure. And there you can see that the left hand side of St. Paul's has really disappeared. So we've really created this sort of narrow pathway for the sun rays, and it's looking really realistic. Hit Y on your keyboard, look at that before and after. If you've got all of these mask points up on your image, just hit H and they will all disappear. And that looks fantastic. It really does look amazing. In just a few steps, we've created this beautiful photo. I've got one more bonus tip for you. So hit Y on your keyboard. Let's go back to the image. I want to create a nice big radial gradient. So hit plus, click radial gradient, top left hand corner, drag a nice big round shape over the image, and we're basically trying to imitate the sun here. If again your lines for your mask have disappeared, just hit H on your keyboard, and then we're going to go over to the exposure for this mask, and we're going to pull it to the right hand side. So I'm going plus 1.95 on the exposure for the mask that we've just created, and that looks fantastic. It really does add a bit of realism to the image. And if you hit Y, you've got an amazing before and after. Hit the H button and all of those masks disappear, and look at that. Doesn't that look fantastic? Hit F on your keyboard and you'll be able to see a full screen version of the image that we've just produced, and that looks fantastic. You can print that up, you can put it on your wall, you can send it to your friends and family as a birthday or a holiday gift, and you can post it up on your social media. If you do, don't forget to tag me. So I hope you enjoyed this quick Lightroom tutorial, how to create stunning black and white architectural pictures, all in 5 easy to follow steps. Let me know what you think about this process in the comments below, and make sure you join the Facebook group. It's growing every day. Post up the image that you've just created. I'd love to hear what you think about it. If you'd like to see another video of me using this technique, turning a beautiful daylight photo into a beautiful, wonderful nighttime scene, click on this video right here. Until the next time, get out there and take those photos.